So, where are we? Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. Specifically, we're at the Iraqi Parliament building. So, what happened? On Saturday, hundreds of protesters stormed the Iraqi Parliament. These protesters are followers of Muqtada al-Sadr, an influential Shia cleric. Al-Sadr and his followers called for the ouster of the president and prime minister and the holding of new elections, and, if that failed, for a general protest and strike throughout the country. So, why should we care? This is one event in a long string of occurrences that have caused people to question the viability of a united Iraqi state. Calls for the partition of Iraq have been seriously voiced since at least 2007 and have increased in the wake of this instability. Iraq can be roughly divided into three separate states: Shia in the south, Kurds in the north, and Sunnis in the middle. Repeatedly, we've seen many Iraqis identify with these communities more so than identifying with Iraq as a whole. Even before Iraq became independent, the Ottoman Empire had been dividing the region into three separate units for centuries. It's a solid argument, but there are some problems. First, where to draw the borders isn't clear. The biggest problem is Baghdad, right at the meeting point of Shia and Sunni Iraq, and an important site for both groups. Any realistic border could be unsatisfactory to both sides. Further, the Shia state to the south could quickly fall under the influence of Iran, threatening Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. In the north, meanwhile, an independent Kurdish state would be a threat to Syria, Turkey, and Iran. Internally, there are also problems for a Kurdish state. Kurds aren't the only minorities in the region. They're just the biggest, and they've been accused of attempting to Kurdicize the smaller groups. Carving new states out of Iraq also brings up uncomfortable memories. Many of the problems that face the Middle East today stem from borders hastily drawn by Western powers in the early 20th century. And hold on, let's go back a second. Remember when I said many Iraqis primarily identify with their own ethnic or religious groups? Sometimes true. But let's look at Saturday's protesters again. That's the Iraqi flag they're waving. That's Iraq that they're identifying with. Historically, this region has at times formed the backbone, the heartland of some of the world's most famous empires. Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians. These were the great Mesopotamian empires, and this shared regional history of economic, political, and cultural integration has not vanished. But let's look at the more general picture. Since the mid-20th century, we've seen a lot of states break up. India, the Soviet Union, Yugoslavia, Ethiopia, and Sudan, among others, all split into two or more states. All of these splits resulted in serious violence, corruption, instability, or all three. All politics is personal, and just as in personal relationships, political breakups are hard. They're often the best option for all involved, but they're usually messy, often costly, and sometimes deadly. They should not be viewed lightly.